But I kept thinking, and my attorney did not dissuade me, I kept thinking, well, at least I know the worst it's going to be. 3 years, do either 1 to 2 years. That's the way that system worked then under what's called old law. And I figured, okay, well, we'll have to do 1 or 2 years. I stand up in front of the judge, Judge Milton Schwartz, who's gone to his just reward, and I'm confident he's looking up on us now from his from his place. I go up in front of him, and he said, "Good morning, Mr. Gay." I said, "Good morning, Judge Schwartz." We've had for a year, we've been eating dinner in the same cafeteria, and it wasn't like he didn't know me and have some idea that maybe I was a pretty good guy. He said, "You're one of the smartest people I've ever met." And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to give me a testimonial dinner. What a tremendous waste of talent. So I hereby sentence you to 15 years. And I remember glancing at my attorney thinking, did he just say 15 years or months or whatever? Which meant do 5 minimum or 10 maximum, depending on your behavior. And I thought it was hard for me to take in. But
you couldn't register it, right? It
just didn't make any sense based on what really went on. So off I went. A few months later, I self-surrendered to the front gate and began what turned into 6 years, 1 month, 1 day, and 2 hours. And instead of 5 years, which would be the minimum I have to do. But the mistake I made, and it wasn't because I led a good life while I was there, as good a life as you can have in prison, was I ran first their educational department. And then I took over the regional warehouse, which meant everything the prison system bought, used, received on the West Coast, basically, of the United States, went through my office and crossed my desk. And I redid their systems. I turned it into a business where it had just before been a typical government operation run by inmates who weren't trained to do what it was. None of them had ever run a big business. So I found out later from some friends of mine who are correctional officers, who several of those remain my friends to this day, that I had made myself too valuable. When it came time to meet with the parole board and all, at least one of my friends went in and said, "Can we hold him a little longer until we get these systems where we all understand what he's doing?" So some portion of the extra year and whatever was based on I did too good a job.
Like the salesperson that can't get promoted because they don't want to lose his sales. They can't put him in management. They can't let you out because they can't lose your production or your processes. Oh, my God.
Exactly what you read about in business books happened to me.
Amazing.
And I was a counselor to many of the correctional officers. One had a wife who also worked at the prison. She had an affair with a guy and with life without possibility of parole. He sat beside my desk and cried, and I counseled him for weeks. I approved overtime for correctional officers if the real boss wasn't around. If I initialed it in the lower right-hand corner, put in BFG3, then when the real boss came by, he just signed it. So if you wanted to work overtime, all you needed were my initials. So it was an interesting situation, and the average inmate gets $30. I think 25 of it is they would have gotten if they sat in their room, so they can have soap or whatever they need. I was making $500-600 a month, which was, it may sound silly to you and me. In prison, $500 or $600 a month, it's more than you can spend. You're limited to $200 a month at the commissary. So under that program, you got to save $400 a month minimum. So it's an interesting experience. But Jeff, all I did was I took what I've been doing my entire adult life and took it to prison and did it there. I taught sales and marketing, public speaking. I got hundreds of people their GEDs. If you're not in California, I don't know if that's a national term or not. It's the high school equivalency. I taught people how to read. I taught them how to write. I wrote things to the parole board for them. At one point, for about a year or so, almost anyone in the prison who wanted to write to the warden with some complaint came to me, and I wrote the letter for them or edited what they had written. Then it went into the warden, and it came to my desk with a yes or no in the upper left-hand corner from the warden. So it was my job to write back to the inmate, generally speaking, that his request had been denied. So I argued for it, and then I told him no, and if he wanted to appeal, I wrote back. It was like a science fiction movie where I was writing to myself. I don't think the inmate couldn't understand what I asked for, and the warden didn't care. The answer was no. So I had to turn no into a full-page letter.
So, Ben, when you were doing these classes and public speaking and helping people, were there common rooms or the lunch room or something where you were putting on your seminar?
Yeah, the dining hall. There was another building that I sometimes used if something was going on in the dining hall. But we'd have at Lompoc 100, 200 people a night on the teaching nights. At San Quentin, it was bigger. But so we just used the dining hall.
So you're in the dining hall. I'm trying to picture this with your whiteboard or your overhead projector or chalkboard and
chalkboard. Yeah, chalkboard.
Okay. And and handouts and people showing up at the prescribed time, etc.
Right. Let me show you one who showed up. That's one of my, if you want to say what good did you do, look at this. That's Lamont Bowens. Gigi and I unofficially adopted him. Don't let your past hold you back. The night I met him, he came to the public speaking course scared to death. He was a high school dropout. That's assuming he ever dropped in. I don't know that he went to high school at all. I never asked him, but I know he didn't graduate. And today, he's a practicing attorney, has 3 offices, one on the East Coast, West Coast, and one in Texas. He's up for a judgeship and doing extremely well. His plan before he came to public speaking, Jeff, is one of my secret weapons. It gives people, if they're never going to give a speech in public again after they leave the class, or maybe only at their Rotary Club or at their church, it doesn't make any difference. It gives them a confidence that they didn't have before. They did the most scary thing they can do. Speaking in public, supposedly, I don't understand it because I love it, but is the number one psychological fear ahead of death by fire. So
is that true?
That's what the studies have shown. I've read it numerous times.
I never knew that. I saw Jordan Belfort speak at a conference, the Wolf of Wall Street, and he said something that I stole. Some people have a fear of public speaking. I have a fear of not public speaking.
Yeah. I'm more comfortable standing in front of 5,000 people with a spotlight on me than I am in my living room at Thanksgiving making small talk with Gigi's relatives. I'm at home on a stage. Can't wait to get on. People see me off to the side as I'm being introduced, and I'm doing this. I said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "No, I'm waiting for him to shut up so I can get on."
You're excited.
This is what I do. But when you can take somebody like Lamont, here was his game plan. He wanted to get out of prison, stick up somebody, get $300 or $400 to finance his way back into the drug business. That was his life plan.
So he was looking for stake money to get started.
Yeah.
With drugs.
And the public speaking class, he'd heard good things about it, but he shuffled his feet and didn't come for a couple, 3 months before he got up the nerve. And then he took to it like a duck to water, and that's what he does all day, every day now. He speaks to juries and so on.
On our last visit, this is the fellow that you and your wife adopted that you'd signed for him on a couple of student loan guarantees or something?
Yeah, we guaranteed his college tuition, and then we guaranteed his law school tuition. And when he called a few months ago and said, "I need another letter of recommendation," I said, "How much is this one going to cost me?" And let me put a footnote on there. We've never had to pay a dime. He's paid everything. So I've never been called in. So it didn't cost anything to look like a good guy and guarantee the loans. But then he called and said, Dad, I need another letter of recommendation. I said, how much is this one going to cost me? He said, nothing. This is a judgeship.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.